Yo, family, we are back, and you are watching Metro Men of Atlanta. I am Sheldon G. Horton.
And I'm Troy Clinton.
We have a very, very special guest in the house on today. Yes, all of our guests are special, but this is extremely special. We are talking to Lamont Scales White, otherwise known as the gay dating coach. He is the owner of A Better Way to Meet.com, who is a professional matchmaking, dating coach, and couples counseling service for gay men in the United States. Lamont has an undergraduate degree in psychology, graduate degree in professional community counseling, and is a certified matchmaker. He lives in Atlanta with his husband and their two nephews. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Lamont to Metro Men of Atlanta. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Sheldon and Troy?
On top of the world, man. This is very special for us because this is actually our inaugural show, and I thought it was befitting.
Oh, really?
Yes, this is our very first show, and
Okay.
I thought it was good to have you on because I've experienced you. I don't know if you remember on the red carpet at the I Elevate Awards. And I actually interviewed you with In Style Atlanta, and you had this amazing banter with our correspondent, who was Jordan at the time, and it was really great. And I thought it would be really, really good. So before we get into our discussion, we had an opportunity to go out on the streets of Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And ask the LGBTQ plus community about their dating experience in Atlanta. Lamont.
I want to know what responses you got, Sheldon, because they say Atlanta, it's hard to find your husband. However, I believe you can find love here.
Thank you so much for that, Lamont. I mean, because Troy and I had an opportunity to just kind of go over the videos that we did, and brother, they stuck a whole sword in Atlanta, brother. So, really? But we're gonna get into that. But one of my first questions is, what made you choose this profession?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I have a weird background as a counselor. So I have an undergrad degree in psychology and then a master's in professional community counseling. So a lot of work that I've been doing has been with couples, right? So when couples have issues, they come to me, particularly with gay couples. And what I've learned is that a lot of gay men, a lot of men in general, really just haven't been taught how to court another person. We as gay men, we haven't been taught how to flirt, how to argue, or how to navigate relationships. So I went back to a matchmaking institute, the same matchmaking institute that Patty Stanger got her certification from, and just learned the science and the business of dating coaching and matchmaking, but had to augment some things for gay men because we are totally different from heterosexuals. So I like to be able to teach gay men how to date and how to stay in healthy relationships.
Okay, wonderful. But here's the thing. I stepped over. So what I wanted to do is, before we get into the meat and the nitty-gritty of this, I would like to play a little ice-breaking game with you. Is that okay?
I like games. It's fine. Okay, I'm here for it, Sheldon.
Great. Okay, so the name of the game is Would You Rather? And I am going to read off questions, and you tell us, it's about 10 questions, and you tell us, would you rather? It's intended to be a lighthearted banter to
Lord,
just kind of get us comfortable.
Let's see how this is going to go.
Okay. So, would you rather have 10 years with your partner or one night stand with your celebrity crush?
10 years with my partner. 10 years.
Wonderful.
Listen.
Wonderful.
Yeah, easy. easy response.
Wonderful. Would you rather have telekinesis, the ability to move things with your mind, or telepathy, the ability to read minds?
Well, listen, I'm a big Charmed fan. I don't know if you know about Charmed, so I'm into
I do.
sci-fi. I definitely want to be able to read people's minds, so I'm here for that.
Got it.
Yeah.
So, would you rather team up with Wonder Woman or Captain Marvel?
Oh Lord, no, I don't like Wonder Woman. Captain Marvel, please. The movie put me to sleep 3 times. I couldn't finish it. So yeah.
That's the best. And she was one of my favorites growing up. So, rather you be forced to sing along or dance to every song you hear?
So I do karaoke at my house. I don't know how to sing, but I pretend to sing. So I would just sing. I would sing. You might not like it. I enjoy it.
Hey, listen, I don't crash on nobody's talent, brother.
Off key and wrong words, but it's okay.
And me too on the right day, Lamont. I ain't gonna even lie to you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so would you rather be royalty 1,000 years ago or an average person today?
Average person today, because the hygiene back then was disgusting. So I'd be the average, healthy, clean person today.
That is hilarious. Okay, so would you rather lounge by the pool or on the beach?
Definitely on the beach. Any beach.
Got it.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm from Florida, so I would have to agree with the beach as well.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather be chronically underdressed or overdressed?
Overdressed. Oh my goodness. Do you see what I have on? Overdressed. Troy has a tank top on and I have a whole blazer and a Gucci, brooch on. Okay. Overdressed any day.
Me too, brother. I won't even lie to you because I do have the unfortunate title of being extra sometimes, but I own it. Would you rather have everyone you know be able to read your thoughts, or for everyone you know to have access to your internet history?
Oh, they can have access to my internet history any day, but you all need to know what's going on up here. Even though my face sometimes tells it, but you can. The browser's fine. Go ahead, take a look at it.
Got it. So that's gonna complete all of our questions. I think you answered those amazingly. So I am going to go over to Troy to let him kick off the questioning, and then we will create our time from there.
Well, listen, I'm super excited about having this opportunity to talk with you. My thing is, being a man over 50, I find it like really hard to meet brothers, to like engage with and just hang out with, like that I really have an interest in. Do you find that that's a common problem, or am I kind of alone in that?
So definitely when you talk about Troy, first, I say it's great to chat with you because I follow you on Instagram and your style is impeccable and your girls are gorgeous. I'll just say that. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I think dating over 50 is extremely hard because when you look at, like, let's be honest, in the gay community, particularly for men, we value youth. However, there's some amazing guys in their 40s, their 50s, and 60s who I think are dateable, who are attractive, who are financially stable, who have been through life, so they have a lot of experience to offer. So I think you want to date an older guy because you can learn a lot of things, and they're more likely to want to be in something that is committed and long term.
And I agree with all of that. And I think probably for most men in their 30s, it's not hard to probably find someone in their 50s. But I find for me, being a person in my 50s, it's very hard for me to find guys who kind of bring to the table what I bring to the table. So whether it's the physicality, the spirituality, the emotional stability, like I find like it's really hard for me to find those brothers out there. I don't know. I don't know if I'm hanging out in the wrong circles. I don't know if I'm not getting out enough.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really do the online thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I find for me, it's been a challenge. But then I see so many people finding love, and it makes me wonder, okay, well, is it me? But then I notice a lot of young people, well, not a lot of men who I see getting married. They look like they're in their mid 30s.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I see a lot more of those unions than I do people in their like 40s or 50s. So I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, Troy, you hit the nail right on the head. And unlike heterosexual people, most gay men get married between the age of 30 and 45. That's when we're getting married. So that does not mean if you're in your 20s or in your 50s that there's no hope. It just means if you're in your 20s, you should just take more time to develop on your career, kind of figure out what you want in a relationship. And if you're in your 50s, that means you have to put yourself out there extra hard. So if you're a person who does not like to go to a bar, a club, a gay soccer event, a gay church, if you don't like the dating apps, if you don't like to be in the streets, if you don't like to go to conferences, you see all these things I'm listing that you could do to find love. If you don't like to do any of those things, then it's going to be really hard to find love unless you hire a matchmaker, right? But even then, guys are going to want you to have some type of, leisure, fun activities that you do, and not just be a work all day and sit on a couch type of guy.
Right.
Yeah.
That's very interesting, and even to delve into some of the reactions that we got in speaking with some of the people. One of the biggest things is, like, for instance, I was talking to a person on yesterday who frequents Atlanta a lot. They say they're here about 2-3 times a month, but they don't venture out simply because of the trust factor and the level of intimidation. I get that. But even for someone who is in Atlanta, who is trying to date on the outside, I've literally been turned down because they've been literally warned against the men in Atlanta and say that I am from the North and I've been told that Atlanta is not a safe place for men, gay men, to date. Have you ever run into that before?
So I think I'll be honest. I think every city we could name something as negative about each city, right? So DC, they say, oh, everybody's the government, gays, right? They ask you what your GS scale is, like how much money you make. Or someone has something negative about New York City to say that, oh, everyone over there, up there, they're either struggling or they're like too artsy or whatever. Atlanta does get a bad rap only because there are a lot of options here in Atlanta. So that means that some guys come here just to kick it. Some guys are not serious about dating. However, there are tons of gay men. There are tons of Black gay men who are serious about dating and who want to find love. It's all about what network of friends that you are connected to. You get to create your circle of who you find love with. If you come to this city and you only hang out with a group of people who do things that are not productive to find love, then that's going to be your experience.
And Lamont, I totally agree with that, because I think that there are some incredible gay men in Atlanta, Georgia. I mean, incredible. You're absolutely right, because I do work in media. I am invited into some of the more, pristine or more cultured areas, and I do get a chance to see brothers of different textures. One of the other things that, and again, and I think you just kind of hit it on the head, I was talking to one of the interviewees said on yesterday that we were talking that there are people that she found that she was lesbian. She finds that there are that the natives think differently than the transplants. So people that move here have a different perspective of Atlanta than the people who just come that were born here. You get what I'm saying? I don't know if I necessarily see that 100% like that, but what I can say is there are a lot of people who buy into the hype of Atlanta television that try to come here and reenact that. What would you say to the person that feels that way?
Yeah, so I will tell you that a lot of people move here from some of the smaller cities for different opportunities. Some move here for professional opportunities. Some people move here because they want to be their most authentic selves. So if you live in a place like Jackson, Mississippi, it's probably a little bit more discrimination that you're going to experience compared to Atlanta. One of the things I tell people is, as you discover who you are, it does not have to mirror what you see on the television. It does not have to mirror what you see in reality TV. It really is about you learning about what makes you smile, what parts of your personality you want to display to people. And you don't want to get into the trick of creating a persona or a character of yourself that people can't really see who you are. And that could look like a number of things, whether the person's more masculine or more feminine. It's really about being confident in who you are and being authentic to who you are, because your professional persona might be one thing, but at the end of the day, who the hell are you? Like, how do you let people see who you really are and not this persona of who you are?
Absolutely. Troy.
So I find, like, in talking with a lot of people, when I'm admiring couples that I see on social media who are, who I think are like living a great life together. And then I find out that there's a lot of couples are engaging in like open relationships, I guess you can say. Or some of them are even having like fans only pages together. It's just a lot of stuff that I'm so not aware of that when I'm hearing this, I'm like, is this becoming the new norm? And I don't know. I don't even know what I think about that. So I wanted to know if you could speak more on that, because I have a very small circle. And it's usually information only coming from maybe two people who I like to think are maybe a little bit more out in the world. So is this becoming a norm? And is this something that people should be more open to? Or like, I don't know. Speak to that, please.
So to answer your question, is it becoming a norm? I would say no. I would say no. I think what gets traction, what gets clicks, likes, discussion is the more conversations about people or couples being in OnlyFans or couples having an open relationship. And if that's the type of relationship that you want to have, amen, have it. Like, that works. But there still are gay men who want monogamy. And I'll put a period there. I will say that you get to create the type of relationship that you want. Whenever you see images on social media of different couples, like, oh, they're living their best life, they're traveling, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, what about the argument that you don't get to see? What about the disagreements that you don't get to see? Social media is just that. It's an image that people want to display to the world. And I think couples or people who are single so many times want to mirror their relationships based off of these power couples on social media. And I'm like, you will always end your relationship if you try to mirror those. During your dating process, you should literally sit down with the person who's in front of you, get to know them, be your most authentic self, and then the two of you create the type of relationship that works well for you all. And it doesn't have to be on social media. I live in Atlanta, and I tell people there are tons of Black gay couples who live in College Park, who live on the South Side, who own homes together, properties, and you will never see them on social media. But they raise children, they're in these long-term relationships, but they don't get the likes, the clicks on social media because it's not spicy, it's not, sensationalized.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what?
Thank you for that. And it makes sense to what you're saying, to each his own. But lately I've been hearing it so much, I'm like, wow. So I guess that's like the norm now compared to what the norm was, 20, 30 years ago.
Well, I think you just hear about it more often because heterosexual people have been in open relationships, poly relationships forever. And you know about like the pastor or the deacon at the church, they're straight, but they're sleeping with every woman in the church, right?
Mm.
But when we talk about gay men who are in similar relationships, we give them an extra dose of judgment and stigma that we don't subscribe to the straight people. We just say, oh, that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to make sense.
Period.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So what would a traditional healthy relationship, Lamont, look like to you?
You said traditional. It depends on the tradition, Sheldon.
Good.
It depends on the tradition. And even some of those traditions, when you look at like, if we say like heterosexual Christian relationships, King Solomon had how many wives? How many concubines?
He had 700 wives.
When we talk about tradition,
concubines.
what are we talking about?
Yes, he had 700 wives and 300 concubines, which made a total of 1,000. Now, how he made it through all of those women, God bless him, but he did. and that's interesting. So, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that. Have you ever do you counsel Christian couples?
I do. I'm a Christian myself. I'm a different type of Christian, but
let's touch on that.
A different kind of Christian.
Let's touch on that.
Yeah.
I'm
a Christian that believes God wants me to be with a man. So if you talk about like different other people's perception of Christianity, they would say, no, it's a sin to be with another man. I don't subscribe to that belief. I'm not religious. I'm more spiritual. I've had to have some uncomfortable conversations with God, like some cussing, screaming conversations about like, hey, if this is who I am, why would you build me like this? Oh, because that's incorrect. So I feel like no matter what your spiritual beliefs are, it is okay to challenge things. It's okay to challenge the system, the text, and look at things in context. And also you have the conversation with your higher power and say, who do you think I am? Who do you want me to be? And make sure that at the end of the day that you are not subscribing to a belief system that is based on judgment and control, rather freedom and love.
So let me ask you something. Do you recommend to people to like create a list of the things that they're looking for? And if a person's trying to figure out like what's important to them, what are the must-haves, what are the things that you could work with? Do you recommend that a person puts a list together? And if it's a list of say maybe 1 to 20 things, how many things should that person meet on that list before you say, nah, that's not the person?
Troy, a list of 20 things is too long. Okay, that's a long list. So it's too long. It's too long. So there are two different types of lists.
Well, I mean, that was a hypothetical question. That's not me personally, but that's just a hypothetical question. But go ahead.
I know people who have longer lists than that, though. That's why it's for real. I've been doing dating coaching and matchmaking for 10 years. And there are times where I meet with a potential matchmaking client, and they literally have a long list of requirements that they want in a relationship. And I say, no one is ever going to live up to all of those expectations. So I would say create two smaller lists. Your first list is a list of your core values. It's all about who you are. Like if spirituality is important to you, if fitness, if health, if communication, if transparency is important to you, come up with that small list, maybe about like 4 or 5 things that talk about who you are and what's important to you. The second list is the type of relationship that you want to be in, right? What are the dynamics that you want in your relationship? Is it based on equity? Is it based on you being the supportive person and letting someone else be the lead? Is it based on truth? Is it based on accountability? Is it based on flexibility? Right? So come up with like 5 things. Those 2 lists are going to help you navigate your dating life. So when you meet a guy, you're going to be like, you know what? Is this relationship going to be based on equity? And if it's not, he's not a good match for you. And that's okay. You just keep dating until you find someone who can live up to your small list, not your large list.
So, Lamont, what would be your advice on bringing men into a greater sense of emotional intelligence?
Lord, today. So whether you're gay, straight, bisexual, it is hard for men to be programmed to be emotionally intelligent, to be emotionally aware, because everything that we have been taught of what it means to be a man, it really shuts off our emotions, right? We have been taught to suck it up, to just keep moving, not to express our feelings. So it is a whole process of unlearning what our parents, what society says, what the media says about what it means to be a man, even a gay man, right? So whether you're going to see a coach, a therapist, if you're reading books, so that you can figure out ways to express your emotions and be okay with that. Whenever I hear someone, they say, oh, I want to date with this guy, and he just doesn't have the emotional intelligence to be with me. Sometimes I might agree with them a little bit. However, usually it just means the person is just not interested in you and they are falling back. And that's okay. But they might not be able to articulate that they're really not into you. So they'll just delay the communication. They'll be a little quiet. They'll be a little laid back. I just think they're just not into you.
I agree, because every man knows to some degree if he wants you or not. And that's period. And that's probably within the first 15, 20 minutes of just being in your presence. So I would have to agree with that. I thought it was very, very interesting because I did, there was a gentleman who I spoke with in the interview that talked about no fats, no femmes. And that is a huge concept in Atlanta and has been for a very long time. Not to mention, you step into a brother on your platform when he was talking about a person being big and all of the things that he attributed to them, and you was like, "Whoa, brother, I don't agree. I don't really agree with that." You know what I'm saying? Interesting enough, I've been a chaser probably all my life. And just like I told the brother the other day, almost I'm down with the thing. For real. I'm a chubby chaser and have been. But I in recent years, of course, I have readjusted that, because the older you get, I can't want you to be a particular size against your overall health. So it's really about what you choose to be, and I support that. But you will not be discriminated against because you are bigger. What would you say to, the brothers that are really trying to find love? Because I've found some really beautiful, heavier brothers with pure hearts. They're family oriented. They really want somebody. But what would you say to that dynamic?
Yeah, well, so they're a whole loaded, conversation. One, I will say that to the guy, I respectfully said to him, like, I totally disagree about all these negative attributes that he was placing on guys who are bigger. And I think that he was actually projecting or sharing about what he thought about himself when he was bigger, because he mentioned that he was larger at a period of time, lost maybe about 100, 150 pounds. So I think maybe he thought about himself in that sense, right? So that has nothing to do what or how other people who are bigger live their lives whatsoever. Two, a lot of people date what they see around them. And also, what you look at the data is that people will date who they think their parents will be pleased with. So if we're talking about no fats, no femmes, if your parents are more open to accepting someone who's more on the femme side or heavier side, then people are more likely to be more open in who they date. If their parents are extremely homophobic and extremely health conscious, the guy's not going to pick someone who is more femme or heavier. They might have sex with them, but they may not try to date or bring them home. So if you're a guy who falls into the category who's more, bigger or more on the femme side, I say live your authentic self, live your life, but make sure you screen guys in the dating process to see where they are about who you are. If they only want to see you at nighttime and to have sex, that person is not going to bring you home to mom and dad. So you get to decide if you want to continue to have that type of relationship, or do you say, you know what? I'd rather spend my time and energy on someone who's going to see me in the daylight, where I'm going to get to see their family and friends. Too often people will settle for what they get and not what they deserve.
That's real.
Yeah.
That's real.
I can appreciate that right there.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, that was really good. Yeah. It was interesting. I saw oh God, and I had their names. They were on your platform, and one was from Atlanta, and you put him on the screen. It was the darker skinned brother, and he was in Atlanta, and then another brother, New York. Exactly. Yeah. I was really rooting for that first dynamic because I really liked what I saw with them. When he told the other brother, he was like, "Hey, I'll ask him later." He said, "Oh, you get points for that one." I really hope that worked out with them. Do you ever do like follow-ups with stuff like that? Do people ever come back and say, "Oh, it worked out, it didn't," or whatever?
Right. Yeah. So couples will come back to give an update on the show, Shoot Your Shot Wednesday, where they'll say, "Hey, yes, we've been dating for 6 months." The bold ones will. However, the majority of them, like if I showed you my DMs, like guys go on dates, they fly to see each other. They'll say, "Hey, Lamont, we're to have a little date night right here." It is filled with guys from the show who have shot their shot, who are going on dates. But even more, people just sometimes connect in the comment section, and they're like, "Oh, I met someone in the comment section," and they go on dates. Yeah,
that is awesome. So, what would you say the success rate is with your platform?
Oh, I have no idea for the show because let me clear things up. I think some people think that the show that I do on Wednesday on Instagram and YouTube is just the end all be all. I do that because I volunteer my time. I like having a good time, and some people find love. However, my full time, I'm a dating coach and professional matchmaker. So guys pay me to go on dates with guys based on their preferences. You ask about that success rate, that's at a 98% success rate.
That is great. Those are some great numbers.
Yes.
Those are some great numbers. Well, I am thoroughly enjoying this conversation. And if you could just labor with us a little more, we want to take a quick break. And then we want to answer some questions from our live viewers. Is that okay?
Perfect. I'm here. Yes.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you stay tuned. We'll be right back after this short break. Okay, so we are back with the gay dating coach, Lamont White. Brother, this is really, really good. We have some people that want to ask us some questions. We're going to try to pull those questions up on the screen. We have our production crew in the background working on that right now. It says, Christopher Laws, people only show it. It says that people only want to show good. Is that always the truth?
I think it's a great point. One of the things through the dating process, sometimes people only want to show like their amazing attributes, their accolades, all the good things. One of the things, if you want to open a guy up to show you more about his hopes, his fears, his dreams, you have to create that environment. So when you go on a date with the guy, are you being judgmental? Are you wanting him to be performative? Or are you creating an atmosphere where he feels relaxed, where he feels like it's romantic, or it's a safe space? So I always tell guys, you get to create the environment if you do certain things by asking questions, by modeling, and doing things that's going to open the guy up. Instead, most guys sit back and ask questions like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Oh, that's a job interview question.
Right.
Guy is only going to tell you the good things about himself. Yeah.
So I have a question on that before we go to the next person. Just because a person is putting their best foot forward, or the first impression is the lasting impression type concept, does it mean he's not being authentic?
No, I think we're conditioned when you first meet someone to only show the amazing things about you. And as you see the value in opening up like an onion, then you start to share certain things like, hey, I'm working on going back to school, or I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z in my life, or I have a fear of commitment because of this last relationship. You have to make it worth the wow of the guy to open up. Instead, we're making guys perform.
Got it. Okay. So I hope this is Bree John. 50 is cute. I just find sometimes they're not real about who they are. Nobody wants to have time for that in real life. What do you say to that? Now, here's the thing. Now, wait a minute, Bree John. Are you trying to say that 50s? I mean, what do you mean? Like, I don't really understand that, because does that mean that you're over 50, you're not being real?
I think that's a perception. I know y'all both are like, wait a minute, shots fired.
Right.
So,
but you know what, Lamont? Go ahead. And then I'm gonna add on to that. Go ahead.
Yeah. So maybe it has been that person's experience of dating guys who are in their 50s. And I think guys in their 50s, depending if you're in your 30s, 20s, or early 40s, they come from a different generation. And some of them may have come out of the closet later in life. Some of them may have been out of the closet since they were born. It just really depends on what they've experienced for you to figure out how they're going to show up. But I don't think we should make a generalization about anyone who's in their 50s and saying they're not real. I think there are some amazing guys who are in their 50s who have lived life, and you could learn a lot from the guys who are in their 50s, much more than you could dating someone in their 30s.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, the one thing that I would say that would be a situation would be set in their ways,
Hmm. Hmm.
which some people, at a certain senior, you set in your ways, and you're not as pliable to say, or you won't compromise as easily as you would at different points of your life. Troy, can you see those questions on the screen?
Yes, but yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah. I
Because the
do
next
think guys
question,
in their 50s, they, if we're going to generalize, which I hate doing, they may have a routine, right? And they may have experienced things and are like, hey, yeah, I'm not going to settle for this anymore. And they're clear on what they want. And I think sometimes people may mistake them for not being real. Instead, they have standards that they are not willing to compromise on.
got it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I don't know if that's all the time good. I mean, because if you're not, when two people come together, we create our dynamic. If you're coming with a dynamic that you're not bending on, that means that you may be supporting another relationship. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, I don't understand that, because I feel like we're all like flour, say like cooking flour.
Mhm.
And say another person might be some burnt particles, oil, and water. Together we make gravy. But say I
Mhm.
mix my flour with someone else who has eggs, milk, food coloring, icing, and we're cake.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
it's the dynamic that happens once we come together that makes the relationship what it was, or what it is. You get what I'm saying? I don't know.
I love that analogy. I listen. I'm gonna steal that, Sheldon. I will tell you the core of the water is that you're still water, right? And you
Right.
mix with something else to make something different. But if you're not true to who you are, then you can't mix properly with something else.
And that's perspective.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
perspective. So Troy, next question.
All right. So the next question we got is from SparkChild82, and I'll say people need to learn what they need versus what they want.
Mm.
Yeah.
Amen, amen, amen. But that means that you have sat down and taken the time to figure about what you need emotionally, what you need physically, what you need financially, what you need spiritually, so that you can say, oh, these are wants. Like, I might want a guy who's 6'2". However, I need a guy who's going to be committed to who I am and to my relationship. So if he
Right.
shows up to be 5'9", guess what? I will take a 5'9" guy who's going to be committed to me versus a 6'2" guy who is not going to be committed and flaky.
And that's real, brother.
Mm-hmm.
That is really real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this thing is really really interesting. Do you honestly feel? Because I know you said it earlier. Do you honestly feel that heterosexual dating is different from um, gay dating? And if so, in
Mm-hmm.
what true regards, in your perspective, that you feel like they're different?
I would say absolutely. So if you're a heterosexual person, you are taught that the man is the head, the man's the lead, he's masculine, he's supposed to have all this type of energy. And then the woman is submissive. Um, she has to be supportive. However, you want her to make more money than you, then come home and still provide. Make
That's
it make
real.
sense. Make it like
Yeah,
what,
that's
what,
real.
right? However, for two gay men, there are two men in the relationship, right? So men, we thrive off of accomplishments. We thrive
Hmm.
off of some way being confident, being a leader, making decisions. Even though we make decisions all day at work, sometimes we might want to come home and not make decisions, but you really want your way, sir. So it is like this equitable relationship where it's hard for two gay men to navigate. How do I help make you feel masculine? How do I help you feel masculine?
Mm.
When we're still navigating this relationship where we're still men and we feel like we're thriving in that relationship. So it's hard teaching gay men to appreciate the masculine sides and feminine sides that we both possess. And it's okay to be in that type of relationship.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Troy.
Listen, I'm taking it all in. I am taking it all in. I mean, relationships is hard. Relationships is work. I don't care heterosexual, bisexual, gay. It's just work, and you definitely got to be committed to the work. I find often people love the idea of being in love, but they're not really committed to the whole process, and not even the process of just finding someone and falling in love, but the process of staying in love. And making it work through the highs and lows,
Yeah.
I
say amen to that. I think a lot of people get into relationships because they're bored, they're lonely, or they're horny. It is not because they want to grow with somebody. It is not because they want to be challenged. It's not because they want to be committed with someone. Those are the reasons that you get into a relationship. Not to satisfy your loneliness, your boredom, or because you're horny.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. You know what, though? We're going to get ready to get off here, but I want to introduce another concept, and I want to get your take on it. Mm-hmm. There is a growing trend of gay men matching with trans men. Mm-hmm. Do you see that on the rise here in Atlanta?
I think you say here in Atlanta or just period?
Oh, just period. Just answer that, period.
Yeah. So I think the younger generation, as I have a 20-year-old nephew, and I look at he and his friends, they are definitely more fluid when it comes to gender identity and also sexual orientation. So there are more occurrences or more acceptance of cisgender gay men being with transgender men. I think it's a beautiful thing that we don't limit ourselves to being saying who we can fall in love with. Particularly if you're like, oh, I can't find somebody, open up your preferences. You might actually find love in a place that you didn't think could be possible.
Right. That's awesome. Because I find myself, because I thought it was a weird dynamic, because at one time I was involved with a trans man. Mm-hmm. It was probably one of the best experiences I ever had, because I never expected that I would. Mm-hmm. Psychologically, I have to be honest, it was something to deal with at the time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because I was like, damn, like, am I gay? Am I straight? You know, but it was when I was still on the fence about not total acceptance. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Judging the a particular part of the body with the whole thing. And, you know, of course, I've been more educated since then. But what I realized is I like masculine women. Mm-hmm. Like basketball girls and women chicks that act like dudes. I love that. And growing up, I used to be very close friends with women like that. I just think it's cool. I just never thought I was sexually attracted to it and to them until I actually had an encounter with a trans man, and you know, yeah, it's all good now. And actually would be open. It was one of those things that you just spoke to, that having, you know what I'm saying, finding love and opening up the preferences, because it was a complete shutdown at one time. So I would have to agree with you on that. Troy, do you have any more questions before we get up?
Listen, it's been an honor. I appreciate all of the information that you provided myself and my guests with. Like you definitely gave me some food for thoughts, some things to consider. I definitely got to shorten. No, not shorten my list. People out there need to shorten my list.
Condense the list.
I hear
Yes,
that good
condense the
people
list.
shorten that list. But nah, I appreciate the opportunity to sit with you and chat with you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
It has been an amazing pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, Lamont. Before we get off of this platform, could you please just tell our guests where they could find you and how they could partake of your services?
Yeah, sure. So first, thanks, Troy. Thanks, Sheldon, for the invitation to come to your platform just to have a conversation. I know that I am committed to making sure that gay men are their most authentic selves, regardless of the type of work that I do. So I'll keep doing that. I do matchmaking, dating coaching for gay men all over the United States. You can find me on all social media, The Gay Dating Coach, or my website, betterwaytomeet.com.
That is awesome, ladies and gentlemen. You have heard it from the man himself. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. We wish you continued success, and we are definitely watching you from where we are. Thank you again for being here. And ladies and gentlemen, come back and see us here at Metro Men of Atlanta.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.